Hey friends. Well, it's the morning of day 2 of Kyle Cease's event, freeing all children inside and out. I have to say, it was a pretty great day 1. It was a pretty great day 1. And, I've spent a bunch of time with Kyle online now, but I'd never been to a live event, and I also hadn't been to a live event like this since before the pandemic period. So it's really kind of cool to be in a big auditorium with people, of this size. I mean, I've been in a theater since the pandemic and all that, but this felt different somehow, and it was really great. And given the purpose of an event like this, it's not surprising that I had stuff come up. I had some things come up for me. Some really positive stuff. There were some ways in which I found myself seeing how frequently and consistently I live in the future. Even if I'm creating a positive future, I'm kind of creating a mental picture, and there's an inherent fear built into that. And there was a moment yesterday, forget what Kyle was even talking about or somebody else was talking about, maybe because he's working with a bunch of people, and I just had a moment of feeling that whole kind of world collapse, that whole mental bubble that seems to be, it really feels like reality for a lot of time, just kind of collapsed. And I was like, oh, yeah, if I'm just here right now, there can be no fear. Like, there's no fear, there's no worry, there's no stress, there's no, fear is kind of like the bottom layer. All the stress and the worry and the mental activity and all that stuff, all the kind of compensatory mechanisms we install are over the top. And so watching myself just drop into a place where there was no fear immediately dissolved all these other compensatory habits. And it was just kind of cool. It was like, oh, wow, this is a really nice place to live. I think I'll stay for a while. So that was really beautiful. I did have some stuff come up that was not so pretty to see. And, I had I didn't actually have this come up yesterday, but I had a dream this morning that I then woke up and wrote down, and there was a kind of, it was a weird dream. I'm like in this cartoon world. I was like able to transition between the real world and a cartoon world. So I could like go into a cartoon environment where there was like a cartoon building and it was like living in a Disney movie or Pixar film for a duration of time. But then I could exit, and when I exited, I was on the streets of London. So this weird dream, and it had a whole bunch of kind of parts to it, that many of which I don't really remember. But when I came out of it, there was a question about being seen. It was back to my old kind of fear of being seen thing. And what I came to from it, there were kind of like a breadcrumb trail that then led me into seeing some aspects of how I feel as though I have somehow cheated, like in life. There's some stuff that came up around my brother and the way that I pursued my own life in relationship to my brother, and there was a kind of feeling of having cheated him. And that I have trouble really attributing to a clear event, but it's a felt sense. And I kept digging. I kept kind of looking, and I thought, well, okay, but hold on. I don't even think it's about that. I think this might be lodged even. It might be, that might be a hook that the pattern grabs onto, but maybe not the origin of the pattern. So anyway, but I had this whole kind of like thing come up about being a cheater, being unjustly rewarded, and that really kind of gets to the heart of some of my, when I think about, okay, well, what am I trying to really pursue in my life, and where am I really going, and where am I really taking this? And I realized that sense of like, I don't deserve to be rewarded is somehow lodged in there deep enough that it can undermine, my movement. It can undermine my commitment to things that I know are my purpose, that I know are deeply, at the core of my reason for being alive. There's a pattern that can come in and kind of like scramble the signal and kind of say, yeah, you don't really deserve this. It's not really, you don't really deserve anything good, because that's about how it talks too. Kind of like just this background noise of, yeah, it's not really going to work out, because at the end of the day, you're just a cheater. It's a kind of like cartoon voice that's so over the top. It's like being bullied, like the feeling that I have of being a bully or a cheater is turned on me. So I'm kind of unearthing that. I did have an insight come through, which is that I'm going to take a year. I seem to make these 1 year commitments that then don't end. Like this video post. I started this video post with a 1 year commitment, and it's still going. I think I'm on number 396. I think I'm on number 796 now, approaching 800. And several years ago, I decided to take a year off from drinking alcohol. I'm still going. So I make these 1 year commitments, and they tend to become life habits. And this one, though, I realized that I have a pattern, particularly with my partner, with Katie, where are items that are contentious, things in our life that are difficult that we're working with, whether it can be anything, it can be truly anything, it can be something between the two of us, although it's rarely that. It's usually like some element of our daily lives, we're working with. We're trying to figure out, okay, how do we want to, how do we stay healthy here? How do we stay where we want to be? And I go to conflict in a way that not only doesn't really help us solve anything, but also is just a manifestation of something else in me. There's something, it has generally nothing to do with the actual issue. And in retrospect, I can always see that. In retrospect, I can always go, oh, it's because this feeling was sitting there in the background of my psyche, creating tension and anxiety, and I just had a thing in front of me that I could project that onto and dive at and be like, and start punching the pillow, be like, this is the problem. And, that not only, it leads to me both initiating conflict and escalating conflict. And with whom do we do these things? With the people we're closest to, with the people who are there in our lives that we can be in conflict with. They make the best candidates. Our closest, dearly, most loved companions and fellow travelers in life get the brunt of this stuff. So my commitment is to not initiate and not escalate conflict for a year. It's going to be so much harder than not drinking alcohol, which I didn't really like to do anyway. So, and I probably can't, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not aiming for perfection here. I'm aiming for consciousness. I'm aiming to take my behavior and make it more conscious, take my communication, make it more conscious, and have a principle of understanding that anytime I'm initiating or escalating conflict, I have to inherently be avoiding. There's no way to go into conflict without somehow being in avoidance. Because how does conflict actually help solve the problem? It never does. That doesn't mean that you can't have opposing viewpoints or that there won't be even some friction in a conversation about resolving something. But conflict is not healing. It's not transformative. We're not going anywhere. So it feels like a big habit to purge from the way I operate and a big pattern to let go of. It's going to be definitely one that requires some real, moment to moment awareness and some real focus. So I might have to install some practices or some rituals of reminding myself of this every day, every morning. I will not go to conflict today, for a year. That's way harder than like the handful of times I've had to say, no, I'm not drinking right now to people at a dinner party or whatever. So yeah. This is after day 1. We'll see what happens after day 2. Thanks for watching, people. Appreciate you. Have a great day. I will see you very soon.